Into the CHGO White Sox post-game show, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson, alongside me, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
Our CHGO White Sox community leader. You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. It's so nice. Let's say it twice. I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show at CHGO_White Sox. We're going to have a rolling cast of producers here today. Lawrence Bennett.
Hey, how you doing?
Behind the mic today. But then Joey Spathis will be there at some point, and I might even pop behind. Why not?
You never know. We should
Why
all
not?
be here.
Hey, we all got to be utility knives or whatever. Swiss Army knives. Got to be able to stay on our toes. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. If you're not subscribed to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel, hit that big red subscribe button. We are close to our. We have a ton of diehards. So if you want to become a diehard,
please
level up your fandom. Head to allchgo.com. We'll later be joined by our CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber, from Guaranteed Rate Field. The White Sox lose or they don't lose game number 114. They lose for the 114th time, getting swept for the 23rd time.
Yep.
Are there any words we haven't said about this team?
No, I mean, I've individually said that players have low baseball IQs, like Lenny Sosa for the Philadelphia play where he's in a rundown with a guy from first to second and holds on the ball way too late for the guy from third to come home and steal. That was dumb, and Lenny has subsequently done more baseball IQ dumb things. But today, it's the whole team, and it's not getting corrected, and it's not getting emphasized. They're just dumb. Andrew Vaughn in the third inning. I'll get back to the first inning. The third inning, a ball is hit right to him. In front of first base, the runner is hustling down the line. I don't know if it was Jimenez or some other Cleveland Guardian. But all Andrew Vaughn has to do is just turn around and tag the runner going down first base. But he lollygags over to first base, and that runner, Cleveland runner, beats him and makes it to first. And then in this game, you get two separate times of the Cleveland Guardians having runners on second and third with two outs and infield singles scoring both of those runners. The first inning, it was Miguel Vargas, who was at third base, a slow chopper right in front of him. It's going to be a tough play for him anyways. The guy on third's going to score. I say concede that run, fake a throw to first, and you saw Jose Ramirez coming at you full speed when you were charging in for that ball. Know that Jose Ramirez is coming behind you and to try to score. Like, these type of things, you have to go in your mind. Like, what am I going to do with this ball hit to my right? What am I going to do with the ball hit to my left? What's it going to be doing if it's a hit over my head? All these scenarios have to go in your mind as a baseball player, but the White Sox don't have that. Now, the Lenny Sosa one where it was a ground ball to his left, he has to dive for it and try to get a bang-bang play, and they score two runs there, I have no problem with. But there's so many instances in this game where the White Sox don't do normal, regular baseball things. I don't know what inning it was. The White Sox have hit runners on first and second. It's Luis Robert at first. At second, it's Corey Jokes.
Probably the third.
You have Brian Ramos up. He hits a line shot over it looked like a rocket. So he hits it to right field. The guy at second base, I was told a long time ago, when the ball is hit to right field and you're on second base, go halfway. And he's not even tagging up at second. He's like probably 5 feet away from second base. The ball goes sailing over Noel's head. You only get advancement from Jokes from second to third, and then Roberts right on his tail. If that's done right, you get a double there from Brian Ramos. You get at least Luis Robert on third, and you get a run scored by Corey Jokes. But just dumb baseball by the White Sox. They eventually score those runs because Cleveland that inning had a bunch of errors and dumb plays and a pickoff to first base with the bases loaded, and no one was there. But the White Sox just outdumbed the Guardians today, and you saw the difference between the best team in the American League and the Cleveland Guardians and the worst team in baseball history, the Chicago White Sox.
And that's why that third inning just did feel like fake BS. Like they were able to add 4 runs, which, woohoo, the final score, 6-4, looks a little nicer, and Emmanuel Clase is able to pad his save stat, which good for him. But it is pretty, I don't know, deflating to look at that third inning, and you have that hit by Ramos, you have the hit by Jolks, but outside of that, it's a little dribbler by Sosa, a little dribbler by Vargas, a little dribbler by Fletcher that deflects off Boyd. Boyd makes the mistake and balks in Robert, so, you know, a nice play there. But overall, this team still has 0 power.
Yep.
This team still has 0 ability to actually walk, and singles are fine, but you have nobody to actually drive them in with power. And when you look at the first 3 innings, right? Because defensively, I mean, the first inning is the first Lane Thomas 2-run infield single, and then the third inning is the second Lane Thomas 2-run infield single. Those 2 plays right there, and I know you're giving a little bit more grace to the Lenine one, and at least on that play, they get the throw home to at least challenge the guy. I think the biggest thing about that Vargas thing is Vaughn's just there stretched out, just like, you know, taking his damn time.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even effort a throw over there. And then you have also the lackadaisical just jaunt from him where Jimenez sees 25 and all he has to do is beat him in the bag. And Vaughn doesn't even have his eyes on Jimenez. It's pure BS. I have all the synonyms for bad pulled up. Tell me when we haven't used one of these words. Substandard, poor, inferior, second rate, second class, unsatisfactory, inadequate, unacceptable, not up to scratch.
That one.
Never heard of.
Yeah.
Not up to par, deficient, imperfect, defective, faulty, shoddy, amateurish, careless, negligent, dreadful, awful, terrible, abominable, frightful, atrocious, disgraceful, deplorable, hopeless, worthless, laughable, lamentable. I don't think we've used lamentable.
No, are they in the pits?
There's one that I was getting. The pits is one of them.
Okay.
Right up next to not up to snuff. My favorite one, though, is in the last one. Rubbish. So we're getting into the British one.
Yeah.
Rubbish, pants, a load of pants.
The 1920s slang?
These people made the English language up, and they're a load of pants. Thank God we've been able to evolve away from horrible, horrible language.
Rubbish is great.
Yeah.
I would use that more often if I could.
Egregious,
That
incompetent,
just means trash
crummy.
in England, right? Throw that in the rubbish.
Yeah, it's crappy.
Now, another synonym for bad, Chicago White Sox. Put it in your parlance. Put it in your everyday speak. Man, that was so White Sox.
White Soxian.
Yeah.
As Kevin Brown said, White Sox. What is it?
Never go full White Sox?
Never.
Yeah.
Was it never go full White Sox? What was the one where?
Yeah.
Is
Never
it?
go full White Sox
all right.
because
Never
it's
go full
taken
White
off
Sox.
of something else we can't say.
Yeah, from Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder.
He said the White
I've
Sox
never
have
seen
gone
Tropic
full
Thunder.
White Sox, I think is what he officially said.
Got you.
But
White Sox are tossers. Yeah, it's another British word.
Tossers. Nice job, Chad. Chad was saying R.I.P. to Randy Savage last night, and I had to re-Google when Randy Savage died, which was
Did he die on September 10th? And
13 years ago. No, I think it was like in May.
Okay.
I think Chad was just thinking of Randy Savage.
Hey, we didn't have a show. In Chad's defense, we didn't have a show on that day that Randy Savage died. He was just making sure that things are on the up and up and letting people know who are watching. Randy Savage is currently dead.
Where was the emergency podcast for Randy Savage's death on May 20th, 2011?
I believe it's out of Stamford, Connecticut, done by the WWE people.
You know who does the best Randy
We
Savage?
should
And I
know.
know this is off track, but you're watching a White Sox
Dan
podcast,
Soder,
damn it.
right?
So let's calm down on that. Yes, Dan Soder. Oh my God, he sounds perfect. We need to get him in studio one of these days.
He's not a White Sox fan.
Hey, Dan Soder,
Niners fan.
guy from Arizona. Do you want to come in and talk about the worst team in baseball and do your Randy Savage impersonation? Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, Randy Savage played baseball, so maybe
Did
maybe,
for the
maybe
Cardinal,
that's a
right?
connection.
I mean, we
Yeah.
could say, hey, Tony La Russa, Randy Savage, come on through.
And Dave said, "Thanks for nothing, Sean. All season long, I've taken a drink for every synonym you guys have used for bad. I am now deceased." Randy Savage says hello. So thank you, Dave, for that one. Appreciate that. I mean, there's really not much to say because what's even disappointing is, the guy that's supposed to be the stopper of a 14-game home losing streak that's now extended to 15 games. Last game they've won at home was against the Yankees back in August. But like you're supposed to have a stopper out there in Davis Martin. Going into the game, he has a 3.29 ERA, and guess what his record is? Guy has a 3.29 ERA.
I mean, I saw it, so yes, I would.
0-3 now, 0-4, right? Does
Yeah.
he get hung with the loss? I mean, you're just hanging your best guys out to dry. And I understand last Saturday Crochet hung them out to dry. He got really roughed up, but I mean, this is just part of all of the lies that Chris gets told back in November. That guy wanted a job, didn't have a plan for it. What was said yesterday? I have the components of a plan. What was the line?
Yeah.
I have the idea of a plan. Like he knew the team sucked.
The concepts of a plan.
He had the concepts of a plan, and then, he just kind of waited and see what would happen. And it has just been brutal because I really do think Brian Bannister is a bright side to this White Sox organization.
Correct.
But we really don't get to fully realize it because the position players, there's also under the bad synonyms, there's the slurs that we could say. So I think we can go to the slurs here. I don't know if there's maybe a beep sound effect. Can you?
No.
Okay, well, maybe you mute me. Maybe we'll just go. The White Sox position players are chicken shit. Did you do it? Oh, look at that. There we go. Do you feel like that worked?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, someone's going to be upset.
Yeah,
I don't really care.
It's
been horrendous to watch this White Sox team. I know I don't need to keep telling you, but I feel like I do. They've lost 114 games. They have 33 wins. I think it is truly, truly going to be entertainment for the next 15 games.
15, yeah.
15 games. Can the White Sox win 4? Can the White Sox surpass the 2020 team's win total? A season where 60 games were played.
Yeah.
The season started in August, and they had 36 wins. Can they get to 36 wins this year? I don't think they can.
The only saving grace for the White Sox, upcoming this weekend at home, even though Sean just told you they've lost their last 15 at the crib, so it's not like other teams who typically win at home. They're bad at home and on the road, or at a neutral site. They have the Oakland Athletics, and when they did have the 22-game or 21 games in a row of losing, the Oakland Athletics helped them out with the victory there. They'll get a victory 1 this weekend versus the Oakland Athletics. Then they play an Angels team that's been at it forever. Maybe they'll get a win out of the 6 they play versus the Angels. Now you're looking for 1 versus the Tigers, 1 versus the San Diego Padres. Good luck.
Good luck.
Both those teams are battling for playoff spots. So good luck.
And did you see what the A's did to torture the Astros last night? It was the 12th inning. Cubs legend Hector Neris was on the bump. They have the ghost runner on second.
Yep.
I think Lawrence Butler was the first batter. He drops down a bunt. He's safe at home, right? And I think a run scores then. Next guy drops a bunt. They can't field it. Next guy comes up. He drops a bunt. They end up scoring 3 runs on bunts. Like, if the White Sox can't field, balls hit at them, there is no way that they're going to be able to beat Oakland because Oakland gives a crud. There you go. You don't have to mute me for that one. They give a crud.
Yes.
And they're also just IQ. Like, they don't have the talent, but they actually have they give a crap. And they have, like, IQ.
They do have talented players. They're still giving crap. I'm still surprised that Brent Rooker is still on their team. Like, he won't be on their team for much longer because he's hitting way too many home runs, and eventually he'll be way too expensive for those Oakland Athletics. But we don't have a player close to Brent Rooker. We should, but that guy's terrible this year, and that's Luis Robert Jr. I already talked about him last night. We just talked about Andrew Vaughn. Sean last week talked about Gavin Sheets and never wanted to see him next year. I'm looking down the lineup, and my guy Jim Cook, who's sales guy, came over earlier, and while these dumb plays that we're talking about in the first and third were going on, I was yelling actively here in the CHGO offices, and someone's like, why? They're bad. I don't mind them losing because they have a lack of talent. I mind them losing because they're dumb. You can play baseball, a smart brand of baseball, and still lose. And yes, people will be disappointed, but that's what the White Sox are doing. I looked up and down this lineup. I'm like, the only players I want on this team next year are all young players or players that have to be on the team because of contractual obligations and or you traded for this player, Miguel Vargas. Brian Ramos. That's it on the position player side.
Corey Lee.
That's it on the position. If Corey Lee was on the team, fine. He's a backup catcher, though.
Yeah, but he's better than Chucky Robinson.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, Caro and Corey Lee does not make me upset.
no, it doesn't make me upset.
fine
But
with
like,
that.
if Jolks is back, fine. But get off my team, Robert. Please get off my team. This Luis Robert is terrible, and he doesn't give a goddamn. Neither does Gavin Sheets. Neither does Andrew Vaughn, as you saw today. Lenning Sosa, 4A player. Get off my team. Like, just take the whole team away. Dominic Fletcher plays a quality right field, and you saw the play today he made on Jimenez at second base. He's got a good arm and a good sense of how to jump for balls and get good jumps on balls in the outfield. But he can't hit worth a damn. And what is going to be worse? You running this same shite team back, or run a bunch of AAA players back, or run a bunch of middle-aged players you sign for 1 year next year. I would rather watch them because at least they're hungry. At least they're trying. At least they're doing things to win baseball games, and at least they're using their brains to win baseball games. You were talking about the team, seeing a team having trouble fielding a bunt. Do you think the White Sox would see that and say, let's do that? Let's continue to do that to exploit their weakness? No, they're dumb.
Well,
they would go away from that and do the opposite of that.
White Sox have my favorite type of players, guys that A, aren't fast enough to actually beat out a bunt,
Correct.
and B, I don't think they have the knowledge on how to drop an actual bunt down. So they can't hit, they can't field, and they can't even bunt. Like maybe Amaya knows how to bunt, but if you give me like 1 through 9, the guys that played today, I think Amaya is probably the only one that can actually lay down a proper bunt. So
Yeah.
there you go. Well, Fletcher maybe. So the two guys that could probably lay down a bunt. Let's take a break. I do agree with Drake. Mina Kimes tweeted earlier, in 20 years, history will not look kindly at the fact that it took 1.5 hours of debate to briefly get to climate change. But I'm more concerned about what Drake brought up. The White Sox were 10-52 between the presidential debates, and it wasn't a topic. It's a very pressing issue in our country, and it's not being addressed. So, Drake, thank you for that observation. No White Sox talk yesterday,
And
no Trump Kamala debate between on the White Sox.
these candidates are slipping.
It's
slipping.
Kamala. Come on.
My bad.
And Jeffrey
Ms. Harris.
Jeffrey Smith is very optimistic, saying breaking the record at home would be comical. Jeffrey, you're being very, very optimistic. The White Sox, if they continue this streak, this pattern, will definitely do it in San Diego. You want them, they have to win, I think, 3 games in the next stretch versus Oakland, versus Anaheim, and the Padres to have a chance to lose versus the Angels here, their last 3 home games. So, very optimistic, Jeffrey. I like your optimism, but they'll be losing it in San Diego.
Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't yet. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back to talk more White Sox. Vinnie Duber, our CHGO White Sox beat writer, will be joining us in a second. Herb, tell him about Liney.
When the weather gets warm, just any beer won't do. You need something light, refreshing, and flavorful. Leinenkugel has a flavor for every summer moment. It is the perfect companion for the great outdoors, the great American pastime, or just a great night out with friends. Whenever I go to the ballpark, which will be this Saturday to celebrate with the Bums in 108, you know I'm going to be grabbing myself a summer shandy because it is summer still until like the 21st, and it is also delicious. But you're at home like Herb. I got you. Summer shandy. You're not breaking any news to me. I drink summer shandy all the damn time. Give me something else that Leinenkugel has. Okay. Try the Lakeside Cherry with real cherry juice, or grapefruit shandy with natural white grapefruit flavor, and honey lemon light with 99 calories and a sweet finish. Plus classic crowd-pleasing brews like Leinenkugel's Light or Leinie's Original. Flavor every summer moment with Leinenkugel's, the official craft beer of Chicago White Sox. Go to Leinie.com/CHGO to find a delivery options nearest you. That's LEINIE.com/CHGO, or pick up Leinenkugel's pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. Leinenkugel's flavor of the moment. Celebrate responsibly. The Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls.
Yes. And we also want to let you know about our friends over at Empire. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but Empire cannot be beaten on their quality, service, and speed. That's why competitors advertise low quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire will not promise the lowest prices because anyone who does is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you. You're not the flooring expert. They are. Their product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. And to make it easy on you, just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room with their virtual floor designer. It's a great way to see how new floors will transform your space. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/CHGO for details. Thank you to our friends over at Empire. All right. I think the record will be set in. I think they win one of these games against Oakland.
Yes, me too.
I think Oakland's going to look pretty decent against them, but I think they'll get one win out of there. I think the home losing streak will probably extend to 16.
Okay.
I think they get one from
LA.
Anaheim. So if they get swept by San Diego, that third game would be lost 121.
Yes, they only need 7 out of the. So that's 9 games. Yeah, if they get swept by San Diego, that last game, so the 27th, will be the game.
24th sweep of the year.
I think 22nd. Sorry.
Yeah, the 24th sweep of the year, I think, will be against San Diego. That Sunday will be lost 121. That Saturday will be lost 120. Do
you know who's going to start that game too?
At 121?
The game, yeah, for the Padres.
Oh. Is it funny?
No.
Oh, Dylan Cease?
Yes. Just to put the stake in,
Could you
in the heart.
If he no-hits us?
No, I mean, I can imagine 100%.
Oh, 20 Ks. Please, 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 please.
You know he's going to go for it. He's like, this team can't hit. They didn't hit for me when I was having a fantastic year. F these guys. I know exactly how to get these guys out with any pitch I throw over the plate because they can't hit a home run. We know that. They're the worst team. I think worst or second worst in hitting home runs. They're not going to hit doubles. They're the worst in slugging. They're just bad at every single facet of the game, which is unbelievable. I don't think any team, and this is why they're the worst team in baseball history, has ever had the worst or second worst in most offensive categories. And they're pretty damn bad in their pitching staff, too. And you already know about their managing and coaching staff. They're hella bad. Owner's terrible. General manager's horrible. What do they do well with the White Sox? Tell me one thing they do well.
I don't know. And especially, too, when Getz
lose games.
That's true.
I don't know if they even do that well. They just do it. They're just good at it.
I mean, they lose well.
They're just good at it.
They are going to be historically the best team at losing.
I always bring this up. Eddie Curry was just tall. I don't think he loved basketball. He was just tall. That's why he gets to play basketball. I just think the White Sox are bad and dumb. That's why they lose games. They're not good at it. We're just that. It's like, oh, you'll pay you a lot of money to lose games? The White Sox like, yeah, okay, cool. We're going to do that anyways, but if you're going to pay us money to do it, baby.
And DMK asking, how did the Rays get swept by the Chicago White Sox team? That's just baseball for you, folks. It's nothing about the Rays. It's just...
Did they get swept?
Yeah. The White Sox had one sweep. The White Sox won 4 games in a row once.
On the road, right? Or is it here?
No, I think it was here. I think they swept them at home.
Because they've won one series on the road, and that was versus the Cardinals, I believe. 2-1. I think they've only won 4 series this year, and they're all like 3 games versus those teams. The Braves, they beat 2-1. The Cardinals, they beat 2-1. Trying to think of the other 2 teams they've played 3 times, and they've got the best of them.
Yeah, in the midst of getting swept by Philadelphia and Minnesota over 7 games, they swept Tampa, and then for the next 3 games, they got swept by Minnesota. So they had a sweep sandwiched by getting swept twice and then getting swept after. And then after that was the St. Louis series, where they go 2-1 against St. Louis there. So And then they go 2-1 against Tampa May 6th through May 8th, which I don't know. It doesn't matter.
All right. Can you tell me the other teams that the White Sox have actually beaten this year in a season series and a series, or just a season series? There's 4 teams. I've already given you 2.
So the Rays,
the Braves, and the Cardinals. They don't have a winning record versus the Rays overall.
They should. They went 4-2.
Oh, they do. Sorry, that one too.
Okay,
Sorry.
so Cardinals, Rays, and Braves.
Those are 3 of the 5. Yes. Think of another bad team.
Rockies.
Yes.
And the
Baddish team. In the East.
Nationals?
Nationals. They won 2-1 versus the Nationals.
I think that was. I think actually last time they won a home game was May 15th against the Nationals. I'm kidding, but it really does feel that long.
Just bad.
I want to go back to, again, Chris Getz, who said the importance was the defense. And I think it just shows you the rot of this organization that Andrew Vaughn, the former first-round pick, who has struggled to develop, who I thought was struggling to develop because he was playing left field and right field, even second base at some times. And I thought it would all be solved at first base.
Yep.
He's their Roberto Clemente nominee. I think he's their heart and hustle guy for this year.
Yep.
And just being beat out to the bag like that is so pathetic. It's beyond pathetic. It is such a summation of this team. And someone on Reddit asked, like, hey, can we put together like a massive clip of just everything Chris Getz says and then him being contradicted by the White Sox play in 2024? I know for a fact if I actually do that project, I am 100% putting that Andrew Vaughn thing in there because he is just such a microcosm and such a summation of the White Sox screwing their players over and not giving them proper development. And also, I think it leads to what you're seeing with Robert. I think Vaughn's probably just sick of this team. And Vaughn's probably counting down, just like we are, that there's 15 games left. And he's probably thinking, oh, this is an easy play. He's probably truly just turned the brain off, thinking it's a routine play. There's just no will factor. There's no next level. There's no competitive nature.
TW.
There's no TW. Thank you, Hawk.
And that is the fault of leadership. Both the team, there's no leader in that team, and also there's no manager to lead. The manager that was here, you knew he admitted that he wasn't a leader in his first year, and that's why that team played poorly. And then he came this year and he's like, I'm going to be a leader this year. When? You didn't start, brother. It's just really, really poor on the White Sox part. And we were just talking about this. The Cleveland Guardians, if you just look at them from roster, like top of the lineup to the bottom of the lineup, and you look at the rest of the league, you're like, it's fine. The team's all right. Like, talent-wise, fine. But you know why they win and why they're the best record in the American League? It's not because of Stephen Vogt necessarily. This has been established before Stephen Vogt got here, but he's not hurting it. He's just keeping the same stuff that Tito Francona and this organization have done. Their leader is Jose Ramirez, and he's also their best player. When you have your best player grind, steal bases, hit home runs, and do all the little things that the grinders are supposed to do, that 26 man's like, if number one's doing all that, you know what I'm going to do? All that too, because I can't do less than what the best guy is, because he's got all the money, he's got all the talent, but he's still out here giving his all. How many times have we come on, opened these microphones up and said, Luis Roberts struggled today. He didn't run out the first base. Loy Jimenez did this. Yoan Moncada did that. Andrew Vaughn didn't hustle, etc., etc. These are the people supposed to be at the top of your level. It's supposed to be the examples to the 26th man on your team. And they don't give the effort. That's why the Cleveland Guardians are good, because they follow the example of their all-star third baseman that shows up every day and does the things that are necessary. And Alex says, R.I.P. Abreu. This thing really has gone off the tracks since Jose Abreu has left the White Sox. In the year that he was here, the team was still bad. He was not that great, but they led them to 81-81, which is disappointing. But I would kill 3 to 4 people to be 81-81 right now.
I agree with that.
Might be joining us very soon. Can expound on what the chairman had said, but you can just read it, Sean, if you want to.
You want me to read it?
I mean, while we're getting it up there.
Everyone in this organization is extremely unhappy with the results of this season. That goes without saying. This year has been very painful for all, especially our fans. We did not arrive here overnight, and solutions won't happen overnight either. Going back to last year, we have made difficult decisions and changes to begin building a foundation for future success. What has impressed me is how our players and staff have continued to work and bring a professional attitude to the ballpark each day, despite a historically difficult season. No one is happy with the results, but I commend the continued effort. I expect to have more to say at the end of the season. Sorry. We're going to head out to Guaranteed Rate Field and talk to our CHGO White Sox beat writer, Vinnie Duber. Vinnie, was this just a press release from Jerry?
Yeah, just a statement put out. They said that they had multiple media requests for the chairman, which obviously makes sense as it's getting late in the year where they're going to be probably the worst team ever. And so they decided to answer all those requests at once, it seems like, with a statement.
Do you feel like the end there, I expect to have more to say at the end of the season. Do you feel like that might leave the possibility to Jerry speaking after the end of the season at all? Like maybe a more of a formal thing with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think it strongly suggests that, which, again, kind of is probably the most surprising part of this for me, that a guy who, as I keep bringing up to folks in the years of covering this team, the one time I've been involved with a baseball related media session with him was last summer when Chris Getz was promoted to GM. So to hear that there might be another coming at the end of the season, again, not saying that that's enough, to hear from the guy who owns the team and is the ultimate decision maker. You would think that those would be far more frequent, but to have them be anything more frequent than nothing, I think stands out to me as notable.
Yeah, I think it's tough to read the line that he says here where, what has impressed him is how they have continued to work and bring a professional attitude to the ballpark. Especially difficult to hear that statement after the 23rd sweep and just the mistakes that were made defensively. Did Grady have anything to say? And I think specifically the one that's most egregious is Vaughn not beating out Jimenez to first base there. Was there any comment from Grady on that play after the fact?
Just an explanation from both him and Andrew Vaughn. I think Vaughn was looking to see if he had to play at second base. And in the time that it took him to see that, he kind of forgot about the runner a little bit. And Jimenez really took advantage of that and was flying down the first baseline. So credit to the runner, and really credit to the runners from Cleveland on all of these infield hits and ground balls. I mean, that's heads-up base running. This organization's been doing that for years. That is a trademark of these Guardians. But certainly that one, as you mentioned, there was an ugly one for the White Sox, as it should have been a very easy out. Grady suggested maybe he should have just tried to tag him instead of going, in a race for the bag. But I think it was more of a mental lapse in terms of the internal clock and all the decisions that went into that one play.
And that's the thing, like when they do this whole, we like the Royals and how they play baseball and recruit Royal type players. I'm like, the Guardians are literally in the same division and been dominating this division for a decent amount of time with not a lot of talent, a decent amount, but as we talked about before the break, those plays typify what the Guardians are all about. And if the White Sox and Jerry's really serious about talking to the media at the end of the year and having changes, look at the Guardians. Look at what they do. Steal some of their people, some of their front office people, and their attitudes towards baseball, because we're not going to have actual Major League Baseball talent 1 through 9 on this organization for years to come. And the Guardians, for years, they just throw out another guy. Manzardo comes here. Or they had the guy from Miles Straw. Just nebulous guys who every year would do something, but every year they're like, all right, let's get a new guy, like the Noel guy this year. They had the other guy who looked like Noel a couple years ago.
Framil Reyes.
Framil Reyes and that other guy who...
Oh, Oscar Gonzalez.
Oscar Gonzalez. Like, they don't care. They just like, okay, here's another guy that plays Cleveland Guardian baseball. We're going to bring him up, and he's going to hit a bunch of home runs, or he's going to steal a bunch of baseball, a bunch of bags. The White Sox don't have that, and that's what's frustrating to me. And I hope when you guys speak to him, Jerry says and sees what we see. Like, they need a different direction, and I know we just hired Chris Getz, and I know that he's not firing Chris Getz, but at least I want Jerry to say what Chris Getz did this year and the offseason was substandard, and he needs to get better, and he's being put on notice this year, so next year better go better. I don't need to be a better record. I just need to see better brand of baseball, because that Miguel Vargas play where he's throwing the ball on a bang-bang play and sees Jose Ramirez running straight at him, like, I need the baseball IQ to be improved right there. Same thing with Vaughn right there on the missed tag. Like, just a bunch of nonsense going on. And then I don't know if Grady talked about the Brian Ramos hit to right field where Corey Julks is in no man's land and only gets to third base where he should have been scoring.
He didn't talk about that play, but it really kind of backed everything up, didn't it? Because Corey Julks was, you turn to watch where the ball is going to land, and then you turn back to see what's going on the bases. And Corey Julks is just past second base. Luis Robert Jr. is almost to second base, and you got Brian Ramos like halfway around first. So there was quite the congestion there. And I mean, listen, they ended up getting, I think, all three of those guys home. So grand scheme of things, not a big deal, but certainly didn't look pretty in an inning full of not pretty, both in the first half of that inning by the White Sox and the second half of that inning by the Guardians. I believe the Guardians were charged with three errors in this game. The White Sox didn't have any, but certainly made their own mistakes as well. So, just kind of that was just a really horrible looking inning of baseball, but for three errors to be committed and the White Sox to not take even greater advantage, certainly is something that's gonna not sit well with them this evening, I would have to imagine.
Going back to Monday and kind of piling on top of that is setting a new tone for 2025. Chris Getz talked about the managerial search, and I remember you asked specifically about, is that manager wearing a different uniform? Do you want to bring that to the people and what Chris Getz has recently said about the next manager for the White Sox?
Sure. I mean, I guess it's just a confirmation of the first thing he said, back when Pedro Grifol was fired and when he first talked about the criteria, I guess you could call it. But you've got him saying then, a month ago, that he wanted the next manager to be somebody who's currently in uniform for another team. So that means a coach, a member of the coaching staff, or a current manager, I suppose, for another team. But then you had Chris talking the other day about how they've taken all this time to create a list of candidates and to talk more thoroughly through their criteria and all that. So I just wanted to make sure, that after doing all of that, they were still kind of committed to that first thing he said, and he said that they were. So I think if you want to pick the pool of candidates for who the next White Sox manager is going to be, it's going to be someone who's currently on a coaching staff or managing for one of the 29 other Major League Baseball teams.
We saw Brian Ramos play, and we were talking about that play where he laced that ball to right. I think the kid's doing well in his brief stint that he's been back up here in the major leagues. But before the game, he was doing some other things. Can you tell the folks what the White Sox have him doing pregame?
Yeah, I mean, he's practicing in the outfield, and that doesn't mean anything more than that, right? I mean, we used to see, I always remember Jose Abreu taking ground balls at shortstop before pretty much every game. That didn't mean he was ever going to get into the game, but this maybe is a little bit more than that, although you're not going to see Brian Ramos play any outfield this season. Grady Sizemore basically said, why would we put him out there with no reps or no experience at that position, throw him kind of into the deep end of the pool. But all that being said, maybe the White Sox as an organization sit down with Ramos and say, hey, why don't you work on this a little bit over the offseason, and we'll see about it come spring training. So I don't think it's anything that is them saying, guess who's going to be an outfielder in 2025, but I think it is just kind of trying to create a little bit more versatility, right? I mean, it's something that we hear constantly praised, specifically by managers, because it allows them to do more with their lineups and in the middle of games. But I understand that we're not too far removed from Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets being thrown out into the corner outfield spots and having some pretty detrimental effects. To talk, seriously about Andrew Vaughn, obviously it provided for some laughable highlights at times, or lowlights rather. But I mean, honestly, you could probably point to Andrew Vaughn's time in the outfield as having a longer lasting effect on his legs and maybe turning him into the player that he is now instead of the one we thought he was going to be, several years ago. So I don't know what the future holds for Brian Ramos, but I think creating versatility is probably the name of the game there. This is a guy who's trying to get a big league opportunity, right? I mean, I don't think it's written in pen or Sharpie anywhere what he's going to be at the start of the 2025 season. They've still got Miguel Vargas. Now, Vargas came in with versatility. You'd think it may be easier to move him. But again, I think it's about creating options more so than it is them trying to figure out what the opening day lineup's going to be right now.
I got two quick ones, the first one's quick. I mean, has there been more talk about Vargas possibly getting a little bit more or showing off that versatility, or has it just been pretty hard in, he's our third baseman?
I mean, that's what it's... That's how it's played out, certainly. I mean, I can go back to what we heard a month ago when Grady took over, which was he wanted to give him consistency. He wanted him to play him at third base, which sounded so much like a departure from what we heard from Pedro when Vargas was acquired at the trade deadline, talking about the versatility and trying him out all over the field. And we haven't seen Grady stray from that. So we haven't heard anything or seen anything that would lead me to believe that he's going to be playing anywhere else besides third base.
Yeah, 3 games at DH for Vargas, 1 game in left field, now 26 games at third base for the player that was acquired at the deadline. I do want to go to right field, though. If Ramos is getting time in the outfield, it doesn't seem like it will be in left field because they got a man there in Andrew Benintendi. Doesn't seem like it'll be in center field because he's just learning to play the outfield, and that seems really difficult to just go out there and play center. You also got Luis Robert Jr.
Correct.
Does that mean it's going to be looking to get him in against lefties in right field to get Fletcher a breath? And also, what has been the talk around Fletcher? We saw another nice play with him in right field, throwing out Jimenez at second.
Well, again, Sean, this is a question for next March, and I'm not, I'm not trying to be funny. I just think that that's really what this is about, right? They can throw him out there before a game and shoot him some fly balls with the jugs machine and say, let's see how you do out there. But it doesn't sound like Grady Sizemore has any intention of playing him in the outfield, that him being Brian Ramos in the outfield this season. And obviously there's only 15 games left, but that's not going to happen. And also, what Grady said today was maybe it's something that might work out next spring. Maybe they work around it in the spring and see what he can do out there. So I don't think you have to worry about anybody's playing time being affected at the moment. On the Fletcher front, he made a couple of really nice plays out in right today. His defensive numbers kind of stack up with the best in baseball really out there, at least if you're talking about some of those sometimes hard to follow defensive metrics, but and he's done some really impressive work in a small number of innings because of his injuries, his time in the minor leagues. Tommy Pham obviously soaking up a lot of playing time through the majority of the season. So if you want to talk about a bright spot, and it might not be a huge one, in terms of impacting wins and losses and all of that, but Dominic Fletcher has been pretty darn good defensively out in right field.
Is there any talk in the post game with either Grady or any of the players that you talk to just trying to avoid being the worst team in baseball? They only have 7 losses to that. 15 games to go. Is there any hey guys, this has been a shit year. Sorry guys who care about swearing, but we need to just not be that team who's got the most losses in baseball history. Is there a little pride in there? It just seems like they're going about their business. Jerry's happy with the professionalism they show up with, but it just seems like they're just marking the days off on the calendar and waiting to get to Cancun.
I mean, I know it's a hard thing for folks on the outside to understand, but they don't care about that. And I think, if I were to, I don't want to play psychologist or anything like that, but I do think that this has been the case for a while. We've got, national media folks showing up at the ballpark this week, and you're going to see a lot of stories when they actually do. You notice I'm saying when, not if, because that's my thought at the moment. When they actually do tie and then surpass the record for losses all time, you're going to see a lot of stories being written by myself and my colleagues, but also by folks across the game and across the sport and across the country. I don't think, though, that it's surprising to anyone that's been around this team all year long, right? I mean, we were talking about them setting this record in May. I mean, this team this team won 3 of its first 25 games. This team went on a 14-game losing streak that then looked tame compared to what they went on after the All-Star break. I mean, this is something that's been going on all year long, and I'm not trying to belittle it because it is going to be the worst season in baseball history. But it doesn't seem to be bothering them, probably because it's like, yeah, that's life. We know, kind of thing like that. I mean, we had Davis Martin say after the game today, earmuffs to anyone out there, saying literally, quote, "I don't give a shit about our record." Like, these guys, they keep saying every single day, we show up here to win that night's game. And it's the most cliche thing in the world. And it's boring to hear, on top of maybe being unbelievable by folks, on the outside. But, you can laugh and make your fart noises, Sean, about the chairman complimenting the clubhouse, but it has been something that is true. The clubhouse is good and strong in there, but again, it doesn't mean anything compared when it comes to wins and losses, because we saw a group full of players, both last year and in the years prior, who were much more successful. Not last year, but in the years prior, who were much more successful without this kind of kumbaya harmony that you're seeing in the clubhouse this year. So obviously it doesn't mean anything in terms of wins and losses, but it is true. And I think that is the insight that I can give into what their daily mentality is and why they do not care about this pending historical low.
The 26-man roster last year that hated each other still was 62 and 101 or whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter too much that these guys like each other and are going to be going towards 125 losses.
It doesn't, Sean. It doesn't matter to you. I think it matters when you got to show up and play every day, right? I think it matters when you got to show up to work every day, right?
How does how do you see that show up on the field though?
Well, it doesn't. But I guess my point is, it shows up here. Right, and you're asking, no, seriously, because the question was, do they care about the record? Are they afraid of the record? What is all of this? Is it beating them down? Are they getting all sad? And my answer is no, and I think that does have something to do with it. No, it doesn't make them a winner. Obviously, makes them the biggest losers of all time. But that's what you care about. I think if you're talking about like a work environment kind of thing, though, and why their mentality is what it is, that is part of the explanation. They brought in people who could handle it. They brought in people who could weather it and wear it and show up to work the next day and not be dragged down by it. Again, I know you guys don't care. I know the fans don't care because they just want to see wins. But to answer the question, I think that has part to do with the answer.
I just don't want to see the comedy errors. Like that's it. It's just like, in going back to Baltimore, you have Robert and Benintendi colliding, then Vargas colliding with Benintendi. Then Benintendi gets ejected, so Zach DeLoach has to call off the third baseman and shortstop for a fly ball, and they can't. Then you have Vargas charging in on a grounder today. He can't make the play, 2-run score. You have Sosa not being able to make the play, 2-run score. You have Vaughn being beat out at first base. It's like, I wish there was a little bit more of an edge and a little bit more of a give a crap meter, because I think it would give him a little bit more of an actual edge on the field.
I think that when you say what Davis Martin said, and I think somebody else in the clubhouse said it, I think that lends to being the worst team in baseball history, not caring about it. I think you should have some type of, I don't want to be associated with that record type of deal, and have that mentality to go onto the field. And I think this lends itself to why they're so bad. Like, they're talent deficient, but as Sean says, I think they're also mentally and baseball-wise just not there. Like, not smart baseball-wise at all. And no one's correcting them. And if the corrections are happening, they're not listening to those corrections. And it's been going on with this organization for years. And
let me clarify too. I don't want to make it sound like Davis Martin was talking in a flippant manner. He was talking about that very in specific to their win-loss record. He went on to say a bunch of stuff about how their only focus is being competitors day in and day out. Like, I think that a good way of phrasing it maybe is that they don't want to be associated. It's not that they don't want to be associated with the worst record of all time. It's that they don't want to be associated with an 0-1 record. Does that make sense? Does that make a little more sense? I mean, he talked about how it doesn't matter if it's ping pong or games on their phone. They want to win and beat each other at that, and they want to beat the team on the field. This is not a good team. That's not breaking news. And so that's why you're seeing what you're seeing night in and night out. And obviously there are big picture things there too. But I do want to offer that context a little bit to make it so we're not jumping to too many conclusions about certain things.
And to hammer the point that is probably most important, as you mentioned, this team, as we knew back in May, was horrible. I mean, starting off 3-22, et cetera, it's been an ugly start to the season. Someone brought up the 10-52 stat between presidential debates. It's like a winning record percentage of like 16. If you go to the other games outside of that, it's like a winning percentage 26. Like it's a really bad baseball team, no matter which way you cut up the entire season. All right, that's going to wrap it for the CHGO White Sox postgame show. Thank you to Lawrence Benedetto and Joey Spathis for producing the show. Thank you to Vinnie Duber for joining us from Guaranteed Rate Field. Again, check him out on Twitter. You could read that Jerry Reinsdorf statement if you want. You could also check out allchgo.com for his articles. He has a piece from Monday recapping that Chris Getz meeting. So if you want to catch up on what the GM had to say this week, head over to allchgo.com. I'm Sean Anderson. That's Herb Lawrence, our CHGO White Sox community leader. We will talk to you tomorrow for an off-day show at 7 p.m. Bring your nightcaps, boys, and your sleeping gowns. Talk to you then.